Hello, everyone. I hope you're well. Thank you for tuning in. Um, I have a message that I wanted to share, a download, I guess. Something that started coming in like a week ago, and I've been unpacking it. I've been doing a couple readings of it for myself that I didn't post. And I pulled a couple of cards yesterday asking a question about this download. And I've been sitting with it, and I just watched the Santaro. She just did a reading for Capricorn. It's called What's Yours is Returned to You, and it was posted March 11th, which is today, which is my birthday, by the way. So I feel like this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna share this message, this reading, and the download that started coming in. It was about the concept of cookies, cookies like in the internet context, right? You go online, cookies get downloaded on your thing or something like that. And it was prompted by a friend of mine who we were having a text conversation about a package that I was expecting of somebody was going to send me cookies. My parents were going to send me cookies. And she had responded by saying, cookies are crucial. And something about that just like started, it triggered the download, it triggered the process. And I've been unpacking it. And I had to go back to even double check because when I remembered that she had initially said that, I thought that the words were cookies are vital. And so that really kind of honed me in on the word crucial. Like, what does that mean, crucial? And it comes from the same thing as like crucifix, like bearing your cross. And that's really really interesting, excuse me, because cookies are kind of like bearing, cookies are choices, effectively. Like when I was looking at cookies, like what are they in the internet context? Effectively, it's like every choice that you make. Like, for example, with YouTube, right? If you like something or dislike it, if you watch it or don't watch it, if you share, if you comment, all of that, all of those choices become cookies that effectively shape your experience on the website so that the next time you log in, it's going to reflect the choices that you made, right? And crucial, it's like the crucifix, the idea of carrying your cross. It's like these cookies accumulate like a snowball. And I feel like it becomes very kind of burdensome where it's like we're living in this reality where we're constantly accumulating cookies everywhere we go without even realizing it. And all of that is shaping our experience, even that which we're not actually aware of. And it's not exactly like cookies are a bad thing at all. Cookies are a good thing in certain contexts. Like, for example, when you're logging into like your bank or social media or something like that, um, cookies are the thing that remember your user login, right? The cookies are the thing that remember your payment information at checkout and your shipping information, right? Like your identity kind of stuff. And I would think, as above, so below, if cookies are informing this simulation as well, then the cookies are the thing that when I go into the physical bank, the people there recognize me. Or when I go into the local coffee shop, they recognize me there too. It's like something about that identity, that profile. So, and I was kicking around that in terms of, like, on my computer, it's like if I found out this thing about cookies, right? Cookies are informing the experience. Do I just go in and delete the entire cache, right? Is that what I want to do? Probably not, because if I do that, then it's like I'm going to be logged out of every single one of the websites that I like to use regularly. So now when I go back there, it's like I have to remember the password, I have to remember this. Sometimes you can't remember it, right? And it becomes a whole thing. So that would slow down the experience even more. And it's like we don't want any more slowing down the experience. We want, you know, to expedite the experience. I'm just gonna, excuse me. Um, so cookies are informing the experience. It seems like we accumulate cookies everywhere we go. One of the main reasons why I was really pinged by the cookies are crucial statement is because I love a chocolate chip cookie. I make jokes about it all the time because I really do love chocolate chip cookies all the time. It's like almost all that I subsist off of is chocolate chip cookies. And I'm lucky to live in a place where there are many chocolate chip cookie options, and I have absolutely had every single one of them from every single place in town that has them. And I could write a blog about it, I'm sure. But but again, so it feels like I'm very synchronistically driven too. So I'm like, okay, this is part of my algorithm. It's part of my story. There must be some greater, more significant meaning in it. And when I was younger, one like family tradition was that we would always have a cookie exchange leading up to Christmas. where, you know, everybody would come through and bring their favorite cookies, whatever they made, and there would be this exchange of cookies, like this big thing, and that was leading up to, again, Christmas. And I feel like that's interesting because that Christmas to me represents the solar reset, because that's supposed to be when the sun dies and resurrects. It dies on the winter solstice, and then on the third day it rises again, which happens to be Christmas. And it's associated with all of those kind of like Neo-like figures, like Mithras, like Horus, whatever, that would effectively be the birthday of those figures, just like it's, I guess, the birthday of Jesus too. And the cross too, right? So cookies are crucial, this idea of like the cross and being this accumulation of choices, right? So if cookies as above so below, the cookies in our reality would be reflective of all of our choices, and how choices from the past can influence reality, especially when we dwell upon them, right? Where it's like choices, experiences, things like that, that again, it just feels like it becomes a heavy cross. Or even like hanged man energy, right? Where it's like he's kind of bound to this thing and he's not moving. It's like weighing down the experience. Um, but it also, it feels, I don't know, there's something, again, like about that which is dwelled upon. I don't know if I want to go there yet. Um, and another thing with cookies, so when I was Googling, I came across the Matrix. In the Matrix movie, Oracle, the first time she meets Neo, I think when she's at the house with the kids, she gives him a cookie, and she's sitting there baking cookies, teaching the kids how to bake cookies. And effectively, this cookie is supposed to be a prompt that steers Neo towards the timeline that, you know, the Oracle wants to see play out. It doesn't guarantee it, right? But it steers you towards it, which is the same thing as, you know, how cookies affect our user experience, again, like here on YouTube. It's like the cookies don't force you to watch a particular video, but they do suggest it, right? They do kind of put it in your face and say, want to watch it? So, and even, like, the Oracle doesn't shove the cookie down his throat. Like, she offered, want a cookie? Right? It's a choice point. And she gives him the candy, too, the Merovingian with the cake, right? All of these things are very suggestive, I guess, but more so, particularly with that cookie, how it's like all of these things are just rendering prompts, and the cookie in the field is a rendering prompt. So I guess what was coming through about this information was that it's like this reality is not matching what we're feeling, right? It feels like there's this tremendous change that's going to happen. And tremendous change has happened, right? The last 2 years have been insane. But still, it's like there hasn't been any kind of resolution. And even in terms of change, it's like there hasn't been any kind of clear sign that we are absolutely on the right track, right? We're still, there's this feeling of being blindfolded, right? And just kind of like ushered through this process without knowing what it's leading to, without confirmation that it's leading towards what we feel it's leading towards, right? There's that kind of like blindfolded energy. And again, my question was like, what exactly to do with these cookies? Because it feels like we had accumulated so much. There was so much like this crud layer of cookies, right? And they were still informing reality. There's ones that we're conscious of, not conscious of. And what do we do with it? Do you just clear the cache, right? Are we supposed to start downloading the cookies for the new reality? What does that look like, right? Because that feels very kind of like law of assumption, law of attraction, where you're living as if and making choices as if your manifestation has already come to fruition. It's like those cookies. I don't know. It's almost like if you used your computer and if you used Google like a rich person, I don't know what I'm trying to say, all of a sudden you would start getting advertisements that rich people would get. I don't know if this is a bad example, but that's how it's coming through. I feel like all of a sudden my room got very blue. Has it been that blue the entire time? I don't know. I need to point that out. But yeah, so again, I was just bouncing around these different ideas. So I wound up pulling a whole bunch of cards, and then the Santara reading blew me out of the water because it was just everything that was coming out of this. She echoed back, confirmed. Also, Cindy from Awakening to Spirit just did a collective reading about this kind of like messenger energy coming in that also again was very like neo program energy, right? This idea of like, I don't want to say Messiah being born, I know she wasn't exactly saying that, but just like this very special child kind of energy coming in, right? Just really interesting. So, um, okay, so I pulled a whole bunch of cards based on this idea of now that I know that the cookies are influencing reality and it seems like we have a fuck ton of them in our field, what do we do about it? Right? What the hell? What do we do about it? And one thing that I do want to say is that I kind of feel like I've been in the mud for the last maybe like 2, 3 months or so, maybe even since Corona, right? It's like everyone's been kind of pinned to the map, and movement has been hard. It's been hard to make things materialize, for things to take roots, for things to bear fruit. It's just been hard to create anything new in whatever space it is that we moved into since Corona, right? It's been it's been like a holding space, right, where it's almost like time has been frozen in a type of way. But in the same respect, there's been so much in terms of like desire, right? Like so many things that we most likely would like to jump at and create and do, but it's like which way to move and which way to go, and nothing seems to make sense. It's like that kind of energy, that kind of conflict. Um, okay, so I'll just start here. So on the bottom of the deck in the split here, I have the Page of Cups. Ooh, sorry, the Page of Cups and the Five of Rods. And the Page of Cups is about receiving a message, right? A surprising message. It's a slippery fish of a message. You can see that fish in his cup there, right? But it's interesting to me, this wave that's coming in, and the way that this wave is about to crash on this Five of Rods energy, which is very much so like competing thought forms, right? Where it's like one of the things that I feel like has stagnated movements, that has stagnated the movement for like spiritual light worker type people is the competing dreams, right? The competing thought forms of not only trying to figure out what the hell is even going on with reality, but then what to do with it and what to create within it and all of that. So again, it's like this wave of energy, this wave of spiritual energy, because Page of Cups, it's very Piscean energy. We're in Pisces. This wave is coming in and landing on this very fiery Five of Wands, competing thought forms, too many cooks in the kitchen kind of energy. And it's like that, it's like I'm seeing water landing on like a grill, like hot coals on a grill, and it's like everything just goes tss and sputters out in that moment, and there's like that cloud of steam that comes off of it. But it's not problematic. I'm not seeing it come in and like, be a dream crusher for anybody. It's like that water is satisfying all of those things, where it's like too many cooks are in the kitchen, you can't satisfy all of those competing things, yet somehow it's like something is coming in that effectively at least disentangles the chaos, right? Because it's like it's chaos that's having trouble taking any type of form whatsoever. It's staying in thought form. Um, then the oracle card that I wound up pulling is the Wishing Well card. And that really kind of blew me away, because I thought first about like the ripple effect, right? Where it's like you're throwing a coin into a wishing well, and as soon as it hits the water there, it's generating those ripples, right? Like the butterfly effect. And it's this idea of, casting your intention, and then the butterfly effect happens, and eventually it brings it back to you. And that's what I feel like this wave is on this Page of Cups energy. It's that butterfly effect of of whatever it is that we've been doing here up until now, right? These little choices that we've made, these seemingly insignificant cookies that we've generated, and whatever, that all of that has led to something huge that's coming in, that's going to break that spell of confusion effectively. Because what it looks like, I mean, in the simplest terms, it's like what it looks like we're headed towards is a timeline jump, where we're literally like jumping to another timeline. And I guess I don't know if I might have jumped the gun on that, right? But either which way, that's literally what it feels like we're headed towards. And the reading is opening here with the Devil and the Queen of Pentacles. And of course, the reading is about cookies, right? So the first thing I'm looking for in terms of imagery is a cookie. And there it is with the Queen of Pentacles. And that's me. That's so funny because this Queen of Pentacles, she really represents to me like the Martha Stewart of the tarot deck, right? She's like a very hostess with the mostest kind of energy. She would be very generous. The type you always, when you go over to her house, she's always got lemonade and cookies and like that kind of energy, right? Like it's very domestic goddess in that type of way. But she's giving her cookies here to this devil energy. Giving the cookies to him. Generously, right? She's incredibly generous, kind of like uninhibited in that way. And very fertile, right? She's holding this bunny rabbit, right? So Easter energy too, right? But fertile, think fertile like seeds, right? Eggs, right? Like it's that kind of, even thinking like the idea of an Easter egg, right? Like something that's hidden or encrypted, right? And this Queen of Pentacles, to me, in this spread is representing, if you want to call it, anybody that's, is it anybody that's doing the work, right? It's like, what do you even call it? It's like, to me, it's like, this is the heart code in action, right? Where it's like heart source beings in general, anyone that's really a consciousness that's here in this reality, whatever you want to call it, that's influencing this process for the sake of the greater good, that it's like every time we interact with somebody, there are these cookies that we are sharing that have that heart code in it, that have this inevitability programmed into it. And there's this devil energy that thinks it's taking all of that and tying us up. And again, so this is starting the reading, right? So this is like the very beginning of this interaction. And kind of like she's entering this generously saying, oh yeah, no, I'll give you all the cookies you want. Take all the cookies you want. Because again, there's this long game kind of vibe. And the reason why I'm saying this is just what's entering it is because you can see as the reading progresses and we get to where we are now, this figure appears much more tired. I wouldn't say depleted by any means, but just kind of over it. She turns into the Queen of Swords, right? So at that point, she's just over it. But the Queen of Pentacles here, I guess I'll just say one of the ways that I do my readings is that I add up the math of the cards as I go throughout the story. And I'll add it up from 1 to 22, like the 22 cards of the Major Arcana deck, and I'll just continue to kind of like round it up. And the Queen of Pentacles came out with a value of 10, and the Wishing Well also came out with a value of 10, right? And with the Wishing Well, I was saying that this is the butterfly effect, right? Like throwing the coin into the pond, the ripples, that ripple that was coming back in with the Page of Cups, and effectively landing on that confusion energy with the Five of Rods, right, the competing thought forms coming in and quenching that. And this, again, is kind of like that devil energy, right? So it's like she's engaging in that ripple effect. That's why I'm saying she's kind of giving it generously and with this idea of like a long game, where it's like something about everything that was allowed to happen, right? Anything that happened in here that was fucked up, confusion, bondage, devilry, shenanigans, whatever you want to call it. It's like all of that, all of that energy still wound up going towards the same event, right? It's like there's a story that's coming out where it's like, because the cards that are immediately underneath the devil, and I'll show you the way that it's coming out, almost like a pyramid here, is, sorry, Two of Wands and the Hanged Man, right? And I was talking before about cookies are crucial. The crucial is the cross, bearing that heavy cross, or the cross that you're bound to, right? So this is somebody that's bound, right? And devil represents like bondage, confusion, energy. And this Two of Wands here, it's giving me the energy of almost like a slave trader, kind of, you know, like holding somebody hostage in that type of way. And the energy that's directly beneath it, that's mirroring the devil, is the Seven of Cups, if you can see the way that he's mirroring him there. To kind of indicate that this is all the same energy, this is all the same thing, what it's doing here. And the Seven of Cups is giving me this confusion energy. Actually, I have my own deck that I made that's just index cards, and one of the cards that fell out was the hopium dealer, right? If you know, like, hopium, like, you know, the new age, new cage kind of BS. But it doesn't even have to be new age. It can be any mantra, new, old, whatever. But hopium, keeping people either on a hamster wheel, or I'm even just thinking like the highs and the lows, right? Where it's like you have that hopium high, but then it's followed by like a hard crash, right? And it just keeps you in this like hanged man kind of stuck energy. And I feel like between the relationship between the devil and the Queen of Pentacles, and then this Two of Rods, slave trader energy, and what's right next to him, which is the Knight of Pentacles, right? So we're going from Queen of Pentacles to Knight of Pentacles. This is the first, like, notice that this energy is getting tired, right? So this is telling me Knight of Pentacles is someone who's been in it for the long game. Again, that long game energy. That I feel like, oh, I'm sorry, it's coming out like this. I feel like this energy, which is the devil energy, the goal was to distract and confuse. The goal was to keep everybody off course, was to keep everybody kind of stuck in the Seven of Cups energy, stuck in this Five of Wands energy of not being able to see a path forward. That's really like the energy here, not being able to see a path forward, where it's like there is this sense of purpose, there is this sense of knowing that we have all of these great gifts and what the F do we do with them, but not being able to see any kind of clear path forward, and not feeling like there's any type of like discernible go signal either, right? Because it's like everything is just very kind of muddy and distractions, but again, it's like all of that was allowed to happen because there was this inevitable event that was coming, and that's what's happening on the same line as the devil. The cards after him, it's like I feel like the reason why they were trying to, or something, the reason why something, right? I don't even want to say they, but something was like stalling the growth process was because they were trying to stop this event here, which is Judgment, Six of Pentacles. Right, so Six of Pentacles is it's a reset energy, right? It's reciprocity, but it's also, I mean, here's those cookies again, right? I was saying that the Queen of Pentacles, her pentacle was the cookie. So something about sorting that out, right? Like reciprocity in that type of way, right? What belongs to you, what doesn't belong to you. And then Judgment is giving me the same energy in terms of what belongs to you, what doesn't belong to you. I remember my grandmother had said to me once, I forget what she was talking about, but she had said something about people in your life that if they're meant to be in your life and you love them and you let them go, that they do come back, right? Like what's meant to be comes back to you, like that kind of principle, which is very true and very cosmic, but also very much so this kind of judgment energy in terms of this concept of resurrection, right? It's like Judgment is the final revelation where you see everything for exactly what it is, right? So it's like those that are your people will be seen as your people, and you will know that those are your people. And those that aren't your people won't even be there. It's like that kind of situation. But there's something about that with this Judgment energy in terms of people coming back, or like tribes, like finding your tribe, because I don't think it's a judgment in terms of like good or bad or who's on Santa's naughty list. I think it's really just a matter of figuring out who is who in the zoo and making sure that you wind up going where you're supposed to go. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the next cards that are coming in the sequence, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Yeah. So it was Judgment, Six of Pentacles, then High Priestess and Death. Right? So this sorting hat kind of event. It feels very much like that, a sorting hat kind of event. This to me is talking about like a cookie swap. I was talking about like cookie exchange before, like it's sorting hat, cookie swap, taking the cookies that don't belong to you or that no longer serve you, whatever was allowed to happen that's just kind of like gratuitous. she's giving me this referee kind of energy. Like she's not really interfering with the process, but she's just overseeing it. Like she has the list of what cookies belong to who. And I was clearly getting it as like what timeline people are meant to go on. Because I was saying that I have my math that I write underneath the death card. This came to the value of 6, which is the lover's energy or choice energy, right? Like a big choice point energy. And because we're talking cookies, cookies are choices, this to me is specifically talking about a choice point. And because it's death card energy, death is that which is unstoppable and it's permanent change, but here it's more about the unstoppable aspect of it, where it's coming through, because again, like this high priestess, where it's like she's coming through as a referee that's kind of overseeing this process. This feels like a choice that was made before incarnation. That's the main reason why I was choking on the language of how to describe who this Queen of Pentacles is, right? Because it's us, right, that are here in the game, right? Anybody that's watching this video, I'll say. But so much more beyond that, right? It's like an entire world, more than this video. But you know what I'm saying. But it feels like these choices were made before incarnation, right? That it's like, so I feel like it would apply to people who identify as volunteers, but it also applies to people who feel like they've been here forever, or people who feel like they're fae or light beings or star beings. I don't think it actually matters, but it's just like consciousness, that which is consciousness, that which is love, whatever. That it's like those cookies were encrypted with a choice that was made before incarnation, so that every time the devil played his game, right, or we were, you know, lured into some fuckery, it was okay because that choice was still like encrypted in it, like an Easter egg, right? Like this idea of like the Easter egg, which again came through Cindy's reading. And I want to say, if for whatever reason, Cindy, you watch this, you had done that collective reading about the messenger and this whole Messiah thing, and you didn't even mention the Easter egg, which is the new child being born, right? So that came through your reading, which is so crazy to me. And and that comes through in this reading later as well, in terms of like a child energy returning. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I have to keep going through this. Okay, I'm not that far into it. Where was I? Choices made before incarnation, choices that effectively were ensured, like it was, there was nothing that could stop it. Oh, again, like I hesitate to say, which is what I was saying before, that it's like things were allowed to happen, because so many things in here are just so gross and disgusting that it's like I don't want to stand by that, and I don't want to say allowed to happen. But there was something that Santaro had said in her Capricorn reading from today, which was, she was talking about the hummingbird and how the flower is perfectly designed for the hummingbird. It like magnetizes it in. They have this symbiotic relationship where the flower has, you know, the perfect nectar for the hummingbird, and the hummingbird has the perfect pollination mechanism for the flower, vice versa. And it reminded me of just something that I noticed about gay people. I'm a gay person, believe it or not, surprise. And one thing that seems to be weirdly true about how we work in the ecosystem is that there's a history all across the world, it seems, of gay people kind of flocking to these depressed communities where, like, there was one in Jersey where I grew up, Asbury Park, where it had been a thriving community in like the late 1800s, 1900s, so it had tons of beautiful Victorian architecture, and then just the whole town went through some dark times and everything kind of fell to shit. But what had happened was, it was the undesirable seaside community, and the gays were the undesirables, so they wound up kind of flocking there, rehabbing all of these magnificent Victorian buildings, revitalizing the whole downtown area, bringing restaurants and shops, and then landscaping their communities, and doing all of these different things, and like cultivating the beauty from it, and brought the entire town back to life, to the point where now it's so expensive that the gays can't even hang out there, because now it's just all the rich billionaires from other places around the construct. So but again, I just noticed in terms of that process that it's like it seems like there is a purpose in the ecosystem, that it's like gays move like this flock of birds, almost like starlings, how you see them move in like the murmurations or whatever, and they'll descend upon these like depressed areas that are going through a hard time but have this natural beauty, and they'll like pull the inherent beauty out of it, right? Because it's like they're not one for tearing it down and building, minimalist structures. They're one for saying, "Oh, this is Victorian architecture. Let's preserve it. Let's revitalize it. Let's rehab it." Like that energy of like rehab. So the reason why I feel like that story was dropping through is because I feel like that's kind of what this cookie process is saying in terms of like tough situations that we may have found ourselves in. It's like there was something like that happening in terms of our presence having this kind of cathartic effect, even if we're not conscious of it, just because of the Easter egg encrypted information that we're sharing with our reality as we inform it, as we move through it. And that again, I was also seeing with the Knight of Swords, or Knight of Pentacles, excuse me, because again, the Knight of Pentacles feels like an evolution of that Queen of Pentacles energy, where it's like, she started playing the game feeling, okay, here we go, it's the game, woo, episode 1, and then by season 25, episode 3, she's like, are we done with the fucking game yet? And he's just not interested in what this Two of Wands slave trader has to say, where it's just like kind of passively interfacing with reality at this point. And waiting, because it's like he has his eyes set on this, which is coming, which is so interesting. The King of Cups chariot moving in. This is at the center of the spread. And it kind of looks, because I mean, again, this has this like long haul energy, and it's like I feel like we've all been in this space of like eyes to the sky, just waiting for the fucking ships to arrive or something. You know what I mean? Like it's just like waiting for something to happen. Like something has to happen that brings resolution to this, that brings clarity to the situation, so that we can make a choice in terms of our future, so that because we actually have an informed concept of what the fuck is going on here, right? Like that kind of thing. I feel like he's waiting for that. I've been sowing these seeds forever and ever and ever, and it's like, when is the harvest? When is it coming? And it feels like, I know it's like I don't, dates, right? To throw a date out, it is what it is. But it's just really, really interesting to me that Neptune, the number that was right underneath him, like the math that he added up to, was 19, which is the value of the sun. And the sun is going to go conjunct with Neptune, King of Cups, Neptune, on March 13th, which is in 2 days. And March 13th, 2020, was when all of the timelines collapsed here in the state of New York, at least. That was when, Corona like officially became a thing. And so I don't want to apply that date to everybody. For me, it's a 2-year marker. I think that's really interesting. And then the sun is going to go conjunct with Neptune, I think at 22 degrees of Pisces. It might be 23 though. Nope, 22 degrees. And that's interesting too, right? Because 22 to me at least represents the new story that we're trying to move into. And Neptune to me represents the laws that govern the reality that we're in. Because as above, so below on the 3D spectrum, it's like maritime law is the foundational level of the legal system that governs our lives at a very 3D level, right? So that's Neptune, maritime law. Neptune, maritime law. And then at a more cosmic level, it's like we've been in this age of Pisces, and it's like that has had a particular flavor, a particular parameter where it's like, I don't know, if it is a simulation, it's like the parameters of that simulation are the laws, right? In terms of when I press these buttons on the controller, it does this in a type of way, like that, the laws. So I feel like it's just very interesting that we've had all of this energy, all of these alignments over the last 2 years that have really indicated moving into the age of Aquarius, right? Out of the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. And this feels connected to that as well, where it's almost like releasing a verdict. Like I feel like I'm in court. Like I feel like, not that I'm in court, but that Neptune and the Sun going conjunct feels like, I hate to use the word disclosure, but it's like, disclosure is not the word. What happens when a document is unredacted, right? It's released, whatever that is. Declassified. Like it feels like something is being declassified, right? Because the Sun is that illumination. We have Jupiter in Pisces as well, so expansion. Jupiter was the original ruler of Pisces, and then it was replaced by Neptune more recently. And then Mercury is also in Pisces, and Mercury has the energy of kind of being like somebody with diplomatic immunity, like almost like the lawyer of the zodiac, because of the way that his mythology is, but just all of those figures being in the room, like it feels like a court hearing, and it feels like the one that's speaking is Neptune. And I guess I'm going into that whole tangent and saying all of that because I feel like this is very much so talking about the energy of this alignment. Not to say that anything happens in particular on that day, but that something about that energy is being highlighted here for me. And the way that these two cards look for me, with the Chariot and the King of Cups, it's giving me like very Thelma and Louise energy, where it's just like they're ripping into the construct, bat out of hell. I always see this Chariot as though he's driving through a gate in the firmament, if you can see that, right? And either he's got King of Cups in the passenger seat or King of Cups is driving, however you want to see it. It even looks like the Chariot here is like honking the horn, right, coming in, just like really like a guns blazing kind of energy. And bringing with him this cup, right, this like Grail code energy, this Holy Grail. I always think of the Holy Grail, the Holy Blood, that the crucifixion, right? So we were talking about the crucifixion, that happened. Well, I was, right? Making everybody listen to my shit. But that was about, or excuse me, the Holy Grail, Holy Blood story comes from the crucifixion, that Christ needed to crucify himself in order to cleanse the original sin. Wasn't that the issue? Like, everybody that had died within the construct since Adam couldn't actually ascend or go to heaven or exit the construct, whatever, because of some sort of glitch in the code, in the matrix. Original sin. And Christ's crucifixion somehow resolved that. And at the crucifixion, they took the cup from the Last Supper, collected his blood in it, because what else would you do at a crucifixion? I mean, and apparently, I guess the story was that, well, one of the stories is that it was Joseph, the father's brother-in-law, which I feel like I'm gossiping, right? Joseph, the father's brother-in-law. But this was a story from, it would have been, I guess, like a British story, because it was a Holy Grail story in terms of like King Arthur and that whole spiel. And once, I think that the story of King Arthur and the Holy Grail existed before Christianity colonized that region. So when they absorbed it, they connected it by saying, oh, it was Joseph's brother-in-law that connected the blood. And that Grail gave you effectively superpowers in a type of way. Like, it could heal you, it would bring you tremendous wealth and abundance and all of these things. But the whole thing about the blood was the original sin, right? Like, that was the issue. And every time I think of original sin, I think OS, operating system, original operating system. My one friend pointed out original sine wave. I thought that was brilliant. And I feel like that's something that's been taken away from us. The original way of operating within this construct, I feel like, has been taken away. So when I see this energy coming in, honking the horn real loud with the Grail, it feels like that original code, that original something coming back, right? a return of the energy, a return. I was hearing return of the king, but I'll get to that like later in the reading. And I feel like what they're bringing with them, like this is almost like what's in the trunk of the car, right? We got Thelma and Louise driving in, and then what's in the trunk here is Ten of Swords, Four of Pentacles. And this Ten of Swords to me feels like it's a remedy for this Hanged Man energy. Both of these cards came to a value of 18, so moon energy, right? And this was, again, the Hanged Man was behind this Two of Wands, which was mirroring the devil, giving me like slave trader, holding in bondage energy. But again, like moon, keeping you confused, keeping you in the dark about what's happening, kind of confusing your intuition, right? Like there's something here about really kind of confusing your intuition, your sense of purpose, your sense of direction, not knowing which way to move forward. But also, again, a sense of being, I don't want to say stuck, but held in place for a reason, right? I was saying like the things that were allowed to happen so that the cookie exchange would take place. It's like being held in place for a reason. And that it was okay that we couldn't see where the path was headed because we are where we're supposed to be. I guess that's what I wanted to say. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm kind of getting lost there. But I was saying this energy was coming in with the Chariot, with Thelma and Louise, and it feels like a remedy for that Hanged Man energy, that it's like cutting them loose. Right? I know it looks kind of brutal there, but it feels like it's like cutting up that veil energy. And Ten of Swords to me, that just represents like a story being done, which is beautiful to me. And then Four of Pentacles, this is giving me like Brinks truck energy. Like what the Chariot is really driving here is like a Brinks truck. And this is what's in there. This is the precious cargo. And because this added up to a value of 22, which for me is the new story, the new timeline. It's like that thing that we've all been trying to tune into, where it's like, where is the new timeline? Where is the gateway? It's like this would effectively be if cookies render our reality, right? Whatever's in my cookie cache is the cross that I'm carrying, and that cross that I'm carrying is what's rendering my reality. It's like the cross manifests the choice point. The cross manifests the crossroads. The choice points that we've chosen of the past render the crossroads of the future. I hope that's all making sense. This cookie cache is replacing that. It's like taking the one off and replacing it with another. Because you know how I was saying earlier, where it's like I feel like you don't want to just go in and delete the cache completely, that would actually slow things down. It's like I feel like, especially in the last couple of months, I think we've definitely been doing some hard defrag, delete moments. If you've experienced, a couple of weeks where maybe you just feel like you were taken out of commission recently, like I feel like that would have been a lot of what this process was just going through and doing like file dumps. But again, it's like you don't want to do it in one fall swoop unless you were replacing it with something. And that's what this kind of feels like, is like replacing the old cookie cache with the new cookie cache that would reflect the reality or the timeline that we want to move into. And that again was what I was picking up with the High Priestess, right? That she had the map of everybody's timelines, where they're supposed to go, the inevitable energy here, right? The choice has already been made, it can't be stopped. And again, this event, which was right next to it, that effectively, it seems like the devil energy was trying to slow down or stop, but it was just, there was nothing that could stop it. This also feels like an inevitability in things, again, where it's like seeing, it's coming through very much so as seeing your tribe, but this again was the cookie swap energy. I guess it could be different things for everybody, but this is the cookie swap energy, and this is the new set of cookies that are being swapped in, swapped out, right? Because this is swapped out, this is swapped in, because this, like I was saying, this is cutting up that Hanged Man energy. And as soon as that Hanged Man energy, so this was again another thing that came from the Sand Tarot reading that blew my mind. She was talking about static in the field that's kept us confused. And that was what I was getting from this Seven of Cups, which again was underneath the Devil energy and also underneath that Hanged Man energy. That this was just like this hopium kind of thing, where it's like almost like these different prisons of hopium and going up and down the roller coaster and really getting the shit beat out of you in that perspective. And that was followed by the Eight of Cups. Where are we going? Okay. Where the way that this presented to me, if you remember the movie Jurassic Park, where there's that scene with the electric fence and all of a sudden they realize that the fence is no longer electrified and they can pass through. It feels like that, where it's like this moment where this is the electric fence and you can see it all electrified, and then it's like, boom, this is the fence dead, and the people kind of fleeing and moving directly towards this King of Cups that's coming in with the Chariot. It's like the way that he's moving directly towards them as if they're both moving towards each other. So this has major, like, go signal, green light, confirmation kind of energy. Like, there's something about this that it's like I can't tell from the cards, obviously, if it's like the fence drops and immediately it's like, oh, that's the way, or if it's a slower process than that. But this was coming through as like dirty electricity. So Sand was saying static. I was hearing like dirty electricity. So maybe EMF, something like that. Either which way, whatever it was, this confusion energy, this devil energy that was keeping us in a hanged man position, not knowing which path to choose forward. And it's like something suddenly just kind of turns that off. Like it's this judgment thing where it's just like, boop, it's time. It's like an alignment. It's just something like that. You couldn't stop it, couldn't predict it. And that's another thing that's coming through too, is like nobody could know the date, nobody could know the time. It had to be classified, because it's like, even if you never shared it with anybody, even if you were really good and kept it all to yourself, it's like it would still be in the vibrational field. It would still be in the cookies, right? It's like it would be able to be inferred or something like that. So that was kept out of the game. It was kept out of the field of consciousness, right? But now it seems like something is coming back, like the complete picture of purpose and how to write this new story and how to leapfrog out of this story and into the new one. It seems like that's all coming in. And again, it's coming in with this King of Cups, where it's like as soon as that Seven of Cups goes down, as soon as that firewall drops, this becomes visible. Which makes sense, right? Because this is very much so, a confusion kind of energy, so a lack of clarity. But it's very much so about talking about which way to move, which I feel like has been the issue, right? Where it's like being at like this meta crossroads of like a million different paths to choose and just not knowing which way to go. And then suddenly it's like all the other paths just go dark and one just like boom lights up of like the path. And it's all just like water energy too, because it's King of Cups in the Chariot. King of Cups is very Piscean, all water signs, very Neptune. And the Chariot is Cancer energy. So another water sign, very emotional energy. The High Priestess is governing this process. She's Piscean, so very water energy. Death popping up as an aspect of the inevitability, that's Scorpio, so also very water energy. And then this process over here in terms of what we were being held in was also manifesting as water, with Seven of Cups and then Eight of Cups kind of moving out of that. So water is all of that. If that's the emotional realm, the consciousness realm, the psychic realm, it's like it's coming, it's happening there. Right? So it's like, I want to get really excited and say, like, there is. I mean, it absolutely could manifest in a bazillion different ways, right? You could have somebody come back into your life that you were hoping would come back into your life. That's very much so judgment energy, right? You could get a kind of like payout. This is giving me like the energy of like reparations, right? You could have something like that happen to you that changes your circumstance, absolutely. Um, this again, it's like maybe Thelma and Louise is not the exact like perfect right energy for this, but it is coming in as like maybe more Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, where it's like being picked up to like go on this journey or something. It's like that could be another aspect of it. And there's clear indication that the energy is moving towards us, and then there's also clear indication that we're moving towards the energy. But it's all happening with water, right? Even this Page of Cups and the Wishing Well and all of that, right? It's like it was coming in with the water. It was coming in with like a wave, this surprising wave that just like satisfies the thought forms, that quenches all of this chaos, right? And shorts out the electric fence so that we can escape all the T-Rex lizard people. And yeah, so it's this Eight of Cups again is like clearly moving towards the King of Cups, clearly moving towards this Grail Code energy that feels like it's coming in, this panacea. It's like I want to say like love at first sight with whatever this is, that it's like there's no resistance. It's just almost like a magnetic pull towards this, just like everything is it. And even if there is a little bit of resistance, right? Because I said this way long ago in the reading. I realized this is like an hour now. I'm so sorry. But Queen of Pentacles, when she first entered this game, was very eager and happy to tease and please everybody. And now, how long we've been doing this, she's tired. She's over it. This is Queen of Swords. It's like that's kind of where we're at this perspective. But she's moving towards all of this energy as well. But what's interesting is that the way that her hair is blowing, it's indicating that she's being pushed towards it, right? So if her energy can represent jadedness and that kind of energy, it's like regardless of your circumstance, it's going to happen, right? Because that was the other energy that I was even picking up with this Queen of Pentacles giving generously to the devil, in terms of it being allowed to happen, or it being okay, whatever it is, that it's like no one gets left behind, no one gets wrongly accused, no one gets forgotten, everybody gets redeemed. It's like that kind of situation. Like everything is good. Like true balance is restored. And I was getting that too with the Six of Pentacles, the cookie exchange, where it's like there's a lot in our field, our personal fields, that doesn't belong to us, but we might still consider it a part of our identity, but it's not actually us. And those will be things like negative behaviors, where you might say to yourself like, oh, I'm so lazy, or something like that. It's like that kind of, that's cookie garbage that's in your field. Cookie garbage. I'm coining that. But what this Queen of Swords is moving towards directly, so interesting. So this is where the Return of the King energy was coming. These two cards, so interesting, popping up right beneath the Chariot. Right, so on the Chariot here, I'll zoom in first. We have the Dark Sphinx and the Light Sphinx. And right underneath the Chariot, I have the Sun and the Moon. Right, so these two dualistic forces. You also have the Yin Yang. Right, so that's what's driving the Chariot, right, are these two dualistic forces. Those are the forces or the horses, that's interesting, that are pulling this chariot together, right? These two opposing forces. And they need to work together, in tandem, in unison, in order for the chariot to do anything. Because if one wheel decides to go over there and the other wheel decides to go over here, chariot ain't having a good day. And he's coming in with the Sun and Moon. And just so you can see where the Queen of Swords was in that dynamic, it's like she's facing that directly, being pushed towards this. And you can see movement here with the Sun card. He's kind of being pushed towards her. Or he's moving towards her, I should say. But again, these dualistic forces, right? These things that are working together. Like there's this heavy integration energy that's coming in with this King of Cups care package, right? Because it's like he's driving this Brinks truck that has this Four of Pentacles, which feels like to me the good cookie cachet for the new earth, right? We'll call it the new earth cookie cachet. Whatever it is that is your timeline, your true destiny, what you chose for yourself before incarnation, right? She has it written on the scroll. It's like that is your cookie cachet, and it is coming in on the Brinks truck, heavy security, and again, they're coming in horn blazing, honk honk honk, flashing the lights, waking up the whole neighborhood. And both of these are adding up to a value of 6, which is so interesting, right? So they're right next to each other. They're representing the wheels of the chariot. They're both adding up to a value of 6. And 6 is the integration number for me. 6 is about integration, but it's also the Lover's card. It's the choice. 6 also pops up here with the Devil in terms of, or excuse me, Death, in terms of this inevitable choice, because the choice was made before incarnation. It's like our absolute purpose, our absolute truth, our true cookie cachet, our original operating system. And it's like there's something about it that it's like it's been held at these two polarized ends, right? Because sun and moon, dark and light, it's like those are the wheels that are driving the chariot. And I feel like I was saying earlier, I don't know if I said this earlier, but how like the word crucial, like a cross, like a wheel can't support a chariot unless it has that cross in the, would it be the axle? Would that be called the hub of the wheel? Because otherwise it's like the wheel would just kind of squish when the weight hit it. Well, I mean, obviously it's like it wouldn't be able to support an axle if it didn't have the spokes, right? So there's spokes, words. That's something to unpack. But it's like the like these two opposing, I don't even want to say opposing energies, but it's like it's kind of coming through right now as like a battery, where like when you put the batteries into the remote, the negative needs to face the positive, and then there's the other one that's flipped and the positive faces, do you know what I'm saying? Like there's something about that where it's like those opposing charges working together, because there is something very like magnetic electric happening here too, because this was feeling like an electric fence, dirty electricity. Something happens that's not even clear, and all of a sudden that's gone. Like, to be frank, it's like all of a sudden it's just like bloop, it's time. And all of a sudden there's this clarity that's coming through with her. She's tired, she's jaded, but she sees. Magnetic electric. And yeah, it feels like she's magnetically being just like pulled towards this situation that's coming towards her. And what's interesting is that it's like there's layers to it, where it's like when it was as far out as it could be, but she could first see it, it was approaching her as the death energy. Then as it started to get closer, it was approaching her as the Knight of Swords energy. Then as it got as close as could be, it was the Sun. And you can see how it's like as it gets closer, it gets gentler, where it's like it's really imposing when it's far out, and then it's like kind of like, is that good or is that bad? And then you realize like, oh my god, it's the best thing that it could ever be. And this Knight of Swords, he's closing out the reading here, so he's actually mirroring the Death card. The Death card is on the top of the spread and he's beneath it. And the Knight of Swords added up to a value of 18 as well, which is moon energy. And we had 18 pop up on the Hanged Man and the Ten of Swords, right? So I was saying that the Ten of Swords was coming in the Brinks truck that the King of Cups was driving with everything else. He was also bringing this Ten of Swords to cut the Hanged Man out of the moon energy, out of this state of confusion. And it's like as soon as that happens, because this Knight of Swords is right next to the moon in the spread, it's almost like bursting out of the womb. like, I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like coming out of the womb fully formed on a horse made of lightning. like like that kind of energy, but it very much so feels like a birth. And death energy is rebirth energy, right? It absolutely is rebirth energy. And this is where I was seeing like Return of the King, right? Cuz she's kind of watching it like this, where the sun and the moon are between them. But she's watching him come in. And it's reminding me, I think it might have been Return of the King, one of those Lord of the Rings movies where it's like they live in on like the mountain castle or something, and there's just that giant expansive field for like miles and miles before them, but they can see when people are approaching, right? So it's like when the army first arrives on the horizon, it's just like, is that our guys or is that their guys, right? It's like, is this our people returning to tell us that they're victorious and that they're gonna do this, or is this the army that's about to kill our entire city? And that, I feel like, is the death card, where it's like we've felt whatever's coming for much longer than we could ever clearly see it. Right? The most we noticed was like the color of the horizon changed, but we didn't have any more information beyond that. So again, it's giving me that. And then this is like how I was saying, there's like this discernible green light go signal kind of energy. Like, it feels to me like if this is the Swords family and swords are their culture, it's almost like this is their way of greeting each other, where it's like, hello, raise my sword to you. Hello, raise my sword to you. So it's kind of like an acknowledgement of like, yes, I'm your person. But also, if she's the queen, this is most likely her son or her heir, right? So it is like the return of the king, right? The future king returning from battle, which is very much so sun energy, right? So it's like this Neo kind of energy, this we'll say Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it, but very much so Neo program, where I don't think it's one, I think it's everybody, or at least a lot of people, or something like that, bursting out from this moon energy, right? Because I was saying that this Knight of Swords is what has been kept in Hanged Man position, right? And it feels, it's like an aspect of ourself that's been in a hostage situation, right? And it's returning, it's giving me that idea of like, the inner child returning. Like, people have like, talked about child work and like doing that, connecting to the inner child, but I feel like it's so much deeper than just like healing something that happened in your literal childhood. It's like, it's that original program, it's that Grail code energy, where it's like aspects of our truth that could not ever manifest here in this reality because it would not have been sustainable, right? Like, I feel like there's definitely some people listening to this reading that have been in this construct forever, and then there's some people listening to this reading that have just entered the construct recently as volunteers to do work. Either or, in between, it's like there were certain things that needed to be kept classified, and there were certain things that needed to be aligned before they could be unlocked. I mean, it's literally what San was just saying in her reading as well. I don't know if it was in the first part of the extended, but talking about, did she say that things needed to be classified like that? I don't know if she put it in those terms, but that again, it was like, in the end, this Judgment Day event, this sorting hat moment, this reparations moment, was inevitable. There was nothing that would ever interfere with it. There was nothing that could ever take away from it. I feel like, if anything, things have been slowed down extra slow recently, just for the sake of not making it any more complicated than it needs to be, which might also be what San, because that was what I was saying too about things not being able to grow or manifest or bear fruit right now, because it's like this is not the space for it, if that makes sense. And something about sustainability too, where it's like this dirty electric fence or whatever that we're hopping over, it's like that aspects of ourself, that inner child that's returning, right? That Horus energy that's returning couldn't have actually manifested in the old reality, right? We could have cleared the cookie cache, uploaded all of the new cookies, had it, but it's like I almost feel like it would be, plugging a 1,000,000-watt bulb into an old rickety house's electrical system, right? It would just blow the whole thing. It would be no good for the house or the bulb. each would not have fun at that party. And so it's like little by little, cookies have been removed, and we've noticed it. And I feel like that has really kind of been the purpose, maybe, of the most recent experiences in the last couple of months, at least that I've had, where it's like noticing how these cookies work, the law of cause and effect, and things like that. But again, something happens where it's like whatever it is that makes the cookie exchange not possible because it wouldn't be sustainable, that drops, and then it's suddenly like, oh, I know exactly where to go, I know exactly who I am, what my purpose is, and it's just like everything kind of, it seems so sudden, it seems just like boom, everything just kind of jumps. I don't know how else, if there's anything else that I need to unpack from that. I mean, again, with this night energy that's returning, right? So that was the Hanged Man who was caught up in the devil energy, where it's almost like this exchange between the Queen of Pentacles and the devil was putting her in Hanged Man energy. Right? It's almost talking about the experiences where we're putting ourselves in Hanged Man energy. And this is talking about an energy that I feel like is very much so connected to alignments, bringing in a remedy for that Hanged Man energy that cuts him loose, and the new cookie cache that reflects the new earth, the timelines that we want to go to. And again, another reason why this Chariot to me is about alignments is because he's being driven by the sun and moon, like quite literally in this spread. But it's also, it's like there's an internal alignment too that's happening, right? Where it's like that return of the king energy, but that return of your true self. I don't even want to call it the inner child, just like the whole, complete, true self. And knowing who you are, knowing your purpose, knowing what direction to take. And going from, the most bound possible energy to the most charged possible energy. Because it's like, he really knows his purpose. If you're going to say anything about him, that's one thing you could say. He's charged with purpose. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that there. Thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate that. I hope that this was worth your time. Bye, y'all.